Hello there, studio music teacher friends. Welcome to the Beyond Measure podcast. Christina Whitlock here, your host and self proclaimed anytime piano teacher friend. This is a listener supported show brought to you free of charge by the very generous members of my Patreon community. If you are interested in helping to keep things happening here on this show, please check out christinawhitlock.com/support and check out the incentives of leveling up our teacher friendship. With that being said, let's get on with the show. This is episode 145 of the Beyond Measure podcast. Cheers to kids these days. Kids these days. Okay. So, how many thousands of times have generations spoken these words about the young people of their day? Personally, I tend to get very defensive of, quote, kids these days. I work with some absolutely incredible young people. I happen to think that I'm raising a couple of them as well. I think they are resilient, intelligent, and oftentimes they care better about the world around them than those who are currently in charge. But there's something contradictory about the way that many people speak of up and coming generations. And that's what I want to think about alongside you today. I think that if I surveyed any adult in the world today, they would tell me that they want better for up and coming generations. I mean, I know that I do. We all know that life is a process of, well, living and learning. And the more time goes on, the more we learn about what is good and not so good for our future youth. That's why I sign off every episode with the salutation of onward and upward, right? We live and we learn and we try to do better. We want our young people to have more opportunities than we had. That's a very common parental perspective. I mean, it's why we have a lot of our students, isn't it? How many of our studio parents came from families who couldn't afford lessons, and now they are committed to making sure it happens for their children? It's an incredibly common story, right? We also want our young people to feel more safe. We want them to live in a more peaceful world. We want them to know that they own their own bodies, their actions, and their decisions. We want them to know that they should listen to their gut instincts and that their voice matters in this world, all to an extent greater than we did, right? And yet, at the same time, life is full of times when these treasured young people find themselves in positions where we, the adults, don't seem to think that they have struggled enough or where they have something easier than we did. Our heads start shaking and the fingers start wagging. Kids these days have it so easy, right? It's the whole having to walk to school in the blizzard with no shoes, uphill both ways phenomenon, right? Now, I have to stop and offer one important caveat here that absolutely kids have to experience struggle and hardship and discomfort. 1 billion%, friends. We could definitely take this whole idea too far, and yeah, some people have. It's a real problem to see adults who try to make life so easy and so struggle free for their children that they have no grit. I know this is the kind of stuff that gets us really fuming, right? But I'm not actually talking about those extremes because I do think they are the extremes. Let's focus on the world of music for a moment, shall we? Many of us listening to this podcast grew up in fairly restrictive musical traditions. We were taught that playing music was this trajectory of excellence. It was discipline. It was really hard work. It was a lot of do this and don't do that. Your quote talent was based on your ability to rise to the occasion and perform well under pressure. And again, to some extent, those things are true. But there are also many of us who grew up in that tradition who want better for our students and the up and coming generations now. We want music to feel like a creative experience, not a restrictive one. Yes, we want our students to work hard, but we don't want them to feel as though their value as a human is dependent upon the strength of their last performance. We want playing music to help alleviate their anxiety, not produce it. And I think we are genuine in our desires to make things better for future musicians. And yet, I cannot help but see a double standard here sometimes. And believe me, I wish I could point my fingers at other teachers and blame them, but the truth is, I am guilty as well. I'll give you an example. Let's look at the Longy School of Music. The Longy School, if you are not familiar, is part of Bard College in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And the president of the Longy School of Music is this phenomenal force of a woman by the name of Karen Zorn. Mental note, if you ever have the chance to hear Karen Zorn speak, you go. Okay? You don't miss Karen Zorn. It's like music teacher rule number one. Now you know. Anyway, Karen and the Longy School are on this mission to actually change the world through music. And I know that sounds like kind of a platitude, but it's actually serious business. Their programs focus on music as an avenue for social change, and their work is incredibly compelling. And by the way, this episode is like not sponsored by Bard College or the Longy School of Music. Just thought I'd say that. But anyway, the Longy School prides itself in finding musicians who are going to impact the world with their musicianship and their leadership. They are radical in all kinds of ways, including their audition process. So instead of providing strict repertoire requirements for their auditions, prospective students are told to bring 15 minutes of music that best represents them and their abilities and their passions. There are no dress requirements for the audition. It's very much a come as you are and show us who you are kind of situation. Now, honestly, it's a program that I happen to think I would have done really well in, but I guess that's another story for another life. Anyway, I am talking about this Longy audition because, as much admiration as I have for this program, and as much as I agree with their stance that the traditional audition process only favors one very specific type of musician, I mean, again, I just really agree with all of those things, and I love that they are on a mission to change this. But if I'm being really honest, there are times that my like inner crotchety old lady voice kicks in and says, "Oh, those kids are getting off so easy. They should have to know the pains of formal auditions and intimidating faculty panels and entrance exams and the weight of formal degree performances and, all of the things." And really, I don't like that about myself, friends, because at the end of the day, I much more agree with their mission and their perspective. I am always over here championing the importance of helping our students celebrate the musicians they are today, right? I mean, that was my studio theme for the entire year last year. I happen to love the classical traditions, and I have some students who continue to love them as well. But of course, I do think we are underserving our profession if we limit students to one track of approaching their study, right? And if I, again, a self appointed cheerleader for this movement, still have moments where I put my nose in the air and think, oh, must be nice, kids these days. Well, I just wonder if there's a chance that maybe you do too. These moments leave me asking myself, do I want better for this generation? Or do I just secretly want them to have to suffer through the same things I did? Okay, so maybe this is a heavy example, but I just have to ask, as music teachers, do we indeed want better for our students? Or, again, do we secretly want them to repeat our experiences because we think they are necessary, whatever those experiences happen to be? As with most things, I'm sure the answer lies somewhere in the middle. But I just want to give some credit to these, quote, kids these days. And look, I recognize this is a different kind of episode for me. I get it. But I guess I just get frustrated on the behalf of my young students who I adore and honestly who I admire so much. These kids deal with pressures that we have never known. They are resilient. They navigate social and technological dynamics that are way more complicated than we ever did. They have come through their own fires. They are trying to find their own better paths in this world that, frankly, previous generations have kind of screwed up for them. So it frustrates me when I hear everyone say that we need to prioritize better mental health and that we should normalize counseling and therapy and medications when needed. But at the same time, we throw around terms like snowflakes and poke fun at the overuse of words like triggered and safe space. And I don't know. I just don't like it, friends. I feel like these are walking contradictions and they're around us all the time. I guess it's one of the problems that comes with being an empath, but I see it and I hear it frequently. So, Christina, you're asking me, what is the point of this episode anyway? I guess I've meandered around a little bit, haven't I? Well, here is the deal. I just want to celebrate the incredible students we teach. The students that I have had graduate my studio over the last 25 plus years amaze me with what they are out in the world doing. I am such a proud piano teacher. The young ones I have now are just precious, and they have such good hearts for the world around them. I really just don't want the world to ruin them. I do indeed, in my heart of hearts, want better for them, even when it means admitting that I am the one stuck in old mindsets sometimes. Even when I find myself projecting my own struggles and hurts onto their lives as though these are just things that everyone should have to deal with. Trust me, friends, kids these days do not have it too easy. They have a lot to navigate. And yeah, sometimes they challenge our conventions. But when we feel ourselves pushing back, we need to ask ourselves, is my pushback because I do indeed want better for their generation? Or am I actually just projecting my own experiences on them because I think they need to experience what I did? Huh. I hope I've inspired you to stay focused on the student who walks through the door. I want you to kick off the weight of your own expectations and your own past experiences and teach them what you know in a way that works for them. The way things were taught to us have not always aged well, as they say. Okay, with all that said, let's toast our way out of here, shall we? Studio music teacher friends from all over the world. Today, we are celebrating the cool kids that we get to hang out with each week. May we always be open to learning from our students, just as they are open to learning from us. I hope we are indeed creating a better environment for our students to flourish in. May we know when to dig in and be stubborn about our own artistic traditions. And may we also know when to shake off previous convention in honor of changing the world through music. My glass is raised to you, my world-changing teacher friends. Hear, hear. Whew, okay, that was a doozy, I know. Thank you for hanging out with me while I tried to figure out my feelings here. Cheers indeed to kids these days. If nothing else, they keep us in business, right? Just kidding. None of us would actually be in this work if we didn't truly want better for future generations. I believe that with my whole heart. Thank you, as always, to my incredible Patreon supporters. If you are interested in showing my work a little love, please check out christinawhitlock.com/support for more ways you can do that. So, all right, friends, onward and upward toward your next big adventures. Let's talk soon.